Mayor Pete Buttigieg, iconic history-making LGBTQ candidate, or just another white guy running for president? I'm Robbie Couch, host of Views from the Couch, and I make a lot of queer content that highlights different issues impacting the LGBTQ community. So if you like queer content or you're just an ally that wants to learn more, make sure you subscribe to Views from the Couch. I make brand new videos every single Tuesday. You don't want to miss it. So back to Pete Buttigieg. How do you spell his name, by the way? I know it's Butt, B-U-T-T-I-E-G, B-U-T-T, B-U-T-T-I-E-G-I-G-E? I don't know. So if you have no idea who Mayor Pete Buttigieg is, he is the Democratic mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and he's held that position since 2012. He's also a veteran, he was a Rhodes Scholar, he went to Harvard, smart dude. If Pete Buttigieg were to win the Democratic primary and then go on to win the general election, he would be the country's very first openly gay president, which is huge. Here's the deal, I'm really torn over Pete Buttigieg, I gotta be honest. We're still at a point where a significant chunk of the country wouldn't vote for an LGBTQ candidate. So I think just having an openly queer person in the mix and like having someone kissing their husband or partner or spouse on the same stage in a very openly gay relationship is a really cool, profound thing. And I don't want to trivialize that, I think that's huge. But at the same time, he doesn't have the best track record when it comes to building positive relationships with people of color. It's been kind of annoying to see him get so much media attention in the Democratic primary, arguably more attention than more qualified women. Another really fascinating part of Pete Buttigieg's candidacy is the fact that right after he announced that he was running, I, along with many people, immediately saw that there was some rifts forming within the LGBTQ community. Many white cis gay men are really excited about Pete's candidacy, but then a lot of the other people that I follow who are people of color or women or trans folks were kind of like, meh, or like, he doesn't represent me, or had major reservations before they could even think about supporting him. I think it's really awesome that the LGBTQ community is so diverse. We come from all corners of the earth, we come from all walks of life, but I think it does pose some challenges when we get to discussing these sorts of topics about representation, because I myself, as a white cis gay man, have had very, very different experiences than, say, a trans woman of color who was born into poverty. So to say we're part of the same community makes sense in some ways, but then makes absolutely no sense in other ways. So I decided to reach out to two people who I know would have some thoughts on this very subject. Hashim Coates, who's really involved in local progressive politics here in the Denver area, and Nadine Bridges, who teaches courses about privilege at the University of Denver. I wanted to get their perspective on Pete Buttigieg and LGBTQ representation and why it all matters. Let's take a look. Who can take a stab at spelling his last name?
All right, Whitegay-M-A-N.
Okay. We're going there, all right. A few months ago, I saw a tweet that went like semi-viral. It was right after Pete Buttigieg announced his candidacy for president. Mm-hmm. And here is that tweet. It was by Dr. Stephen Thrasher, and he said, "Prediction regarding Pete Buttigieg. This candidacy will expose the major faultiness between white gay men and the rest of the LGBTQ community." Do you guys see how that's come to life, or what are your thoughts on that prediction, I guess?
Good.
All right. It's easy to make a prediction off of something that already is.
Yeah.
I agree with it. It's going to maybe highlight the divide a little more. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it's just going to limit with the LGBTQ community. It's going to tap into people of color communities to show that fracture, and not just there, more specifically the Black communities as well too.
Right.
Like, I think it's great to hold him accountable, but also like the fracture between like cis gay white males, I think was evident even when Trump ran. There was a clear fissure and direction of one group of the community in cis white gay males. And so it's interesting that we want to place this specifically on Pete.
The pure goal of equality from the white perspective is marriage was obtained. And so they were like, oh, we got everything. We're good now.
Right.
So
that was like the one issue that was like the thing that mobilized people. I got all the media attention. And once that was over, it was like, oh, yeah, we got it.
Look here in Colorado.
Right.
So,
Do you guys feel, are there any aspects of you that feel represented by Pete Buttigieg, or does it feel sort of like not really? As queer people, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I think his viewpoints are in line, but I also think they're talking points. Like, he's saying sound bites that, like, folks are going to follow. I'm not necessarily sure that he fully understands the impact, though. Like, so if you think about his stance regarding voter rights in the prison, like here he's talking about systematic issues, and yet he turns around and says that folks who are in prison don't deserve the right to vote. Well, that doesn't represent me at all.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, he's gay. I view myself as queer. I mean, I'm proud of him and where he's come, and the fact that he has a husband and he's that's not the norm for a mayor, but also like I'm not sure it's directly in line with where I am.
Right, right. So do you guys feel as though there's pressure on you to support certain candidates because of your identities as a person of color, as a queer person, as a woman, whatever it may be? Because I know for me, when Pete Buttigieg announced his candidacy, even though I didn't want to support him and I'm not supporting him, a part of me did feel like, well, I'm someone who believes in representation, and I feel like it's important that we have an openly gay man in the mix. So I did kind of feel this like internal tug of war a little bit. Is that something you guys feel as well, or not? Not necessarily with Pete, but just in general.
I do. I do feel a sense of that with Senator Kamala Harris. Like she was my one. Like when she, like I was like, I like her, but then I'm like, she's a DA, or she was a DA, right?
Yeah.
And like, so that was hard for me. But I believe that because supremacy is so real and conditioning is so real, that I afford passes on certain things.
Right.
And I'm like, I can deal with that. So, like, yes, to answer the short answer to the question, I do identity politics sometimes, but sometimes I pull away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I have to support anybody. I think that it's based on my values and my belief systems. But it doesn't mean that I'm not proud of, Black folks or women of color or queer folks running and being seen and heard. I think that's amazing, even if although Ben Carson is
Trash.
not my,
Not your cup of tea.
I mean, from point is that I thought I wanted to be a doctor because of Ben Carson. So it's super. I read his book. I was 100%. So it's shocking.
He's a good doctor.
Well, he did a 180 on us. That's really what it came out to.
Maybe that's true.
But I mean, I could be proud of the fact that even if I don't believe with his ideology, I can be proud of the fact that as a Black male that he made it to this point. What's sad is what Hashim said around like all of us embody like white supremacy, and if you internalize it enough, you can hate yourself, and that's what you kind of see with some folks. In addition, like we're talking about politics, these folks are politicians, and so they have to play the game. So you have to exchange some part of your identity in order to make it and have some type of power.
How do you guys think the LGBTQ movement would look differently had more trans people and people of color and women and other people who represent marginalized groups within our community, if they had an equal say, an equal voice in the shaping of the movement throughout the decades? Do you think the movement would look differently had there been more seats at the table throughout the years?
I wish there was more opportunity for us to fully understand the history, how many folks have, laid down their lives for us to be here. I think about that movie Stonewall that came out a few years ago.
Embarrassment.
And also just like how
wrong.
many, like, because the thing is like we talk about the cost from like a marginalized standpoint, but what we don't talk about is the cost from a privileged standpoint. And for like cisgender gay men, white gay men, the cost is huge. They don't have an opportunity to build authentic relationships and understand how we move through this journey together. And that's unfortunate. Yeah.
Speaking of Stonewall, I just saw a new survey that was out yesterday that said only 54% of LGBTQ people knew what Stonewall was, which I don't think is a reflection of queer people. I think it just reflects the lack of LGBTQ curriculums in schools and the ability for our community to really know where our roots are, at least in context of like the modern day movement in the U.S. So Pete Buttigieg, not voting for him, I take it.
Listen, if Pete won the Democratic nomination,
Yes.
without a doubt,
Yes.
I would vote for him. I would vote for the last thing that you flush down your toilet before I vote for the current occupier of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
So
I know it's been hard, like with Joe Biden, like being Joe Biden,
Good
like
old
trying to
racist Uncle
think,
Joe.
right, like
Yeah.
trying to fathom going to the ballot box and voting for him. But I would do it. I think I would do it.
who are you all choosing?
I don't know yet.
Warren's out front for me. I'm
Okay.
very excited about Warren, and I think she has what it takes to win in the right spot. Like from a pure like ideology, of course, matters, and that's where my support goes. But from a political standpoint, I feel like she has what it takes to like. I think she can win it.
What I like about her is she's not doing what Joe's doing, right? Like, I mean, 'cause I do political consulting. I'm an analyst. That's my thing. And Vice President Biden is actually speaking to that Rust Belt narrative.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't get it's a whistle, right? It's still a dog
Yes,
whistle.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
a smaller dog, older dog, but it's still a dog whistle. Elizabeth Warren is talking about the problems that affect inner city black folks, that affect rural communities as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The banks are the bad guys, right?
Yes,
They are
yes.
screwing you, and they are screwing the black people too.
Right.
And
Right.
this is my plan to stop that.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a blast. I had so much fun.
Likewise.
We got to do it again. If you guys are wondering more about the 2020 candidates running for president, I'll go ahead and link below in the description of this video to more information on the candidates. And I know it's like over a year out, we have a while to go before the general election, but I think it's important that people are like staying tuned in and getting to know the candidates and trying to parse through the issues, because even though it is over a year away, things are happening quick, and it's gonna be November 2020 before you know it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'll love you forever. I'll appreciate you forever. And make sure you're subscribed to Views from the Couch. I make brand new videos every single Tuesday, and it's a lot of fun. All right, talk to you later, y'all.